Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DiJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you are a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you.
Welcome, revolutionaries, to another episode of the Customer Service Revolution podcast. I am John DiJulius, Chief Revolution Officer, and today I am really excited to have Dave Mortensen on, a longtime client, friend. Dave is the co-founder of Purpose Brands, the largest and most trusted portfolio of fitness, nutrition, and wellness franchise brands. The portfolio includes Orange Theory Fitness, Anytime Fitness, Waxing the City, The Bar Method, Base Camp Fitness, Some Hit Fitness, Stronger You Nation, Healthy Contributions, and Provision Security. Purpose Brands generates a combined revenue of $3.7 billion, operates more than 7,000 locations across 50 countries, and serves a total of 6 million members. Anytime Fitness has been recognized as the #1 fitness franchise brand in the world. Dave and Chuck Runyon, his business partner, have a new book, I think it's their third, called Franchise Your Franchise. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, buddy. How you doing, JD?
Great. Where does this podcast find you?
Well, I am at home today in the balmy weather of Minnesota with all the chaos going on in the world right now, which we don't need to dabble into.
I you guys
crazy.
Have been through a lot the past 5 years. Yeah.
You know, the good news, it'll teach the world one thing. It's going to teach the world that, you can look far left or far right, but the answers are typically in the middle, and we need to work better together as a nation. Humanity is important, and we're missing the boat on that. So hopefully that'll turn around.
Well, hopefully one of your next ventures is politics. That would be great.
Lord help us if I do that.
So listen, I want to make sure I get excited about people, but to show you that this isn't hyperbole, I've been fortunate, I think well over a decade, have worked with you and Chuck and Anytime Fitness, have written about what you guys have done in my last 3 books, got to go underground behind the scenes and see what you've built. I could truly say this, I have never found a company that built a better culture than you. And the incredible thing, than you and Chuck and your amazing leadership team, I know, you're going to deflect that, as you're right. You have. But what blows my mind, Dave, and you could help me with this. I always say, when we opened our salon 33 years ago, actually like next week, we're pretty good at customer service in the beginning, because 50% of our staff was me and my wife. So whether you got it or you didn't, you had to work next to us all day. Then we started, opening more locations, enjoying growth and success. And that experience took a nosedive because me and my wife weren't everywhere. And, not everyone got it, and we weren't able to do it. Now, we only, have a handful of locations, and they're pretty good, but we own them. Right. And there's a control factor there. And so it's a long setup, but you franchised, which I can't understand. And how many tattoos are there of Anytime Fitness out there?
Easily over 4,000.
Yeah. So I've been speaking at your annual conference where, there's a line around the building for tattoos. They have to be Anytime Fitness tattoos. That's the amazing thing. I've spoken to, not only all your major markets in the U.S., but New Zealand, Australia. And these aren't your employees. These are employees of franchisees of yours. And they're the ones getting tattoos. And they're the ones that, just the culture is just amazing. So, I want to set that up for. I've never seen anyone, and that's what I want to get into. But you share a little bit about your backstory, how you got to where you are today.
Luck and choice in life, right, John? And I've had a lot of luck in my life, and I've made some good choices along the way. Early on, I was someone who just was passionate about the fitness industry in general and making a difference in people's lives. I was rare. I came out of high school wanting to be in this industry. Went to college and soon realized I wasn't a college kid and dropped out of college and started working in the industry at a pretty young age of 21 years old. And, just kind of worked my way up a chain of clubs. And from there, that's where I met Chuck. Chuck was doing a similar path as I was. And we connected, realized we were pretty good at what we were doing. And we started a consulting firm pretty early in our years. We started traveling all across the U.S., Canada, Australia a little bit, down into Mexico, working with all different types of gyms, big box, small box, you name it. We probably worked them.
Dave, I'm sorry. What was your credibility? Why would someone hire you? It sounds like you're young at this time, you and Chuck in your teens or early
Yep.
20s.
Yep.
Yeah. Why are people bringing you in? What's your,
Bottom line is a lot of people are very passionate about, especially back then, we're very passionate about the fitness business and making a difference in people's lives. And they would open up gyms, but the operational components to executing a high level gym wasn't there, right? And Chuck and I were about driving results. And driving results really means bringing in more members into your gym and developing an experience that makes a difference with those customers when they walk in the door. And that's something we were just really good at early on. And we were able to not only do it ourselves, but actually write it down. Write it down and go, what are those steps? What are those procedures?
now Dave, had you owned a gym yet or worked in them only before this time?
That's a great question. So it started out, we just worked in them, right? We
Yeah,
worked in
yeah,
them,
yeah.
those experiences and went to the road and started sharing those experiences
Okay.
with others. Now, it's funny you said that because during that period of time, we said to ourselves, we keep telling people, and as we got larger, we said we need to start showing people that we know how to do it. We're just not telling them what to do. So we bought our first gym in 1995. And actually that gym was a big box gym. It was the first gym I ever worked at. I got a front desk job, $4 an hour at that club. That was the same first gym we opened. And that had 400 members when we acquired it. And we turned it into a 4,000 member, very, very successful gym. And we started buying existing gyms, remodeling them, and then selling them off. In fact, that same gym that we bought.
So you're flipping gyms
We
at
flipped
this
gyms.
point.
So
Okay.
we would rebuild them up, flip them, and we were very successful on that. And during that period of time, that's how we came up with the concept of Anytime Fitness.
So how many locations did you own before you started franchising? How many locations?
And we owned 5 different locations at one period of time that we either bought, acquired, and flipped. The one gym that we had, which was a 40,000 square foot gym, we kept during that period of time. And even when we opened up Anytime Fitness, the first one in 2002, we still had that gym for probably 3 years past that, but then sold that off along with our consulting firm. We ended up shutting down because we got so busy with Anytime.
That's cool. So a couple things you brought up there. I always say in a lot of industries, you tell me if this works in the fitness gym, the entrepreneur, well, someone's very talented at a chef, a hairdresser, a landscaper, and they may or may not get sick of, making someone else rich. So they open their own. They have the technical skills, but they didn't have the business side. And that's why so many struggle because, and it sounds like that's kind of where you guys saw your niche was you had a lot of people that are passionate about working out and providing that experience, but they probably didn't know the business end of it. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, there was 2 parts to it. Number one, as we were doing our consulting business, we worked with a lot of different gyms, right? And we always noticed this uniqueness of these owner operator gyms, always had that passion side of the business. And probably because they also were willing to invest in the most important asset in their life, and that was themselves, right? So entrepreneurs will invest in themselves. And we believed in that model of franchising with people investing in themselves. But we also learned everyone has different capabilities and skill sets. And we knew that if we built a solid franchise system that could have the full ecosystem of capabilities, we would be able to level up and support whatever gaps they have and enhance the strengths that they have to make them the best operator possible for the model that we were providing. So yeah, franchising was definitely something we believed in even before we opened our first gym. In fact, uniquely, our first 30 gyms open. Not many people, and I'd never advise doing this. Our first 30 gyms open were all franchisees. We didn't even own our own first.
Yeah, usually you have a proof of concept. That's why I asked you 7 to 10 corporate owned locations, proof of concept. Man, how did you sell it without the proof of concept? Like, that's hard. Well, is it called the pro forma? Is that kind of what?
I'll tell you how we sold it. Early on, we sold it because the same way Chuck and I have been since we started business, we're very transparent, we're authentic, and we're open communicators. So as we were developing Anytime Fitness, like most people, they think they need to hide every secret recipe. We were very transparent in telling people what we were doing. And we had so many people literally knocking on our door and saying, hey, listen, can I be one of your franchisees? Well, they believed in us. They knew the results we developed in the industry and said, you know what? They wanted to be a franchisee and said, yep, come on in. But hey, listen, we don't have this thing figured out. You're going to grow this thing with us. We're going to make mistakes together. But guess what? If we all climb the same hill, we're going to become giants in the end. And that's what we tried to accomplish.
Yeah, get on board early now. There's going to be some growing pains, but you're going to be part of something really special.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It's funny, you were smart enough to know that you had to own your own for the credibility purpose. I did the opposite thing. So I own, obviously, my backstory. So I opened John Roberts Spa and, like everything, an accident, I start getting asked to speak because of our growth and reputation. And then when I started speaking, I started reducing on my bio. I didn't have much to put. I won the 3rd grade kickball contest on there, trying to populate it with anything I can. But what I start doing is I start diminishing, and I think almost to the point where I took it off, that I owned a salon, because I thought, who would want to hire a salon owner to come in and speak to a fitness center or an accounting firm? So I thought that was a detriment. And then this happened about 5 times in a row. The CEO that was introducing me said he'd do whatever the bio said. He goes, this is why I want, because this guy owns a salon. He's at the pointy end of the spear. He knows what it's like. And here's me in the back thinking, what an idiot. I thought that was a bug and it was a feature. Right.
Yeah,
and that's where great. You got. So, all right. So you go and listen, listeners, whether you're thinking about, being an entrepreneur, going into franchising, if you're a leader, what Dave has to share and his best practice is just like, I've learned so much about building my brand and the culture from them. All right. So Dave, you and Chuck go at it. You build Anytime Fitness. And I don't want to gloss over that, and then you start acquiring other brands. Take me to kind of where it came from 20 years later, 22 years later.
Yeah, well, we started Anytime Fitness in 2002. For our second brand we brought on the portfolio was in 2012.
Wax in the City?
Wax in the City, which was 10 years later. But really the ethos of that was 4 years prior to that. So 4 years prior to that, there were actually 3 of us. There were 3 business partners, and Anytime Fitness was having great success. At that point, we probably had about 600 units open. But this is where Chuck and I started to realize we were onto something that was bigger than ourselves. And we were passionate about that. And we realized this is something that's unique, it's special, and it's something we want to start. We wanted to double down on what we were doing. At the time, we had a a third partner who was really, really good at the startup side, but didn't like the scalability, didn't like the human capital that was needed, didn't like the development and evolution of the business. And we had to make some tough decisions. And at that time is when we bought that partner out. And I'll tell
What
you,
year was this?
this is in the worst time you could think of. This was in the recession in
Wait.
08, 09.
Ah,
John, at that time, we had to take out a $26 million loan at 16% interest at that time,
my God.
because we obviously, the only credit we had was the business we owned and operated, right? So if we didn't succeed in that work, we were out of business. We're going to hand this business over to our debtors if we
Right.
can continue to grow it. Luckily for us, we bet on the right thing, just like I say to entrepreneurs. People you have to bet on first are yourself. And we bet on ourselves, and we bet on our team, and we bet on the business. Those three properties helped us develop our culture. And really, that's when we defined who we were, and what we wanted to be. And that's where you saw us really double down on the self-esteem of the world, and really wanted to make a difference with every shareholder that was touched by our uniqueness. And then we wanted to be able to develop our pillars around the 4 Ps of people, purpose, profits, and play, and really turn what culture so many people put on a wall and signs, but we wanted to live it, eat it, breathe it, and add it to our strategy year over year to evolve it, because it's going to change over time. It changes every year, and you've got to be able to grow with your culture as your business grows and as things change.
Well, that's the thing. Dave, if you listen to a lot of entrepreneurs, CEOs, they'll talk about these things. They'll talk about their mission and purpose, but I've never seen someone bring it to life. And again, my first business, John Robert Spot, we have such an easier business model because we own them all. We have total control.
Yep.
There's, if you're not familiar with the franchisor or franchisees business, there's a lot of things you can't tell them that they have to do, and you're not there. How do this is this is the secret sauce, and I know you write about it, but how did you build a culture that everyone talks about, but you guys were relentless and people were bleeding Anytime Fitness purple? I have purple shoes. I have purple handkerchiefs from speaking at your event, and I get into it. And it's a, they're purple, whatever, is all over, and the tattoos. One time I spoke, I don't know if I told you this before, and at your big conference, and one of my last messages was give more. Right? Got to give more in every situation. Provide surplus value. Give more to your company. Get you blah, blah, blah. Next year, I come back to speak, and a woman comes up to me from Anytime Fitness, and she shows me her wrist, and it had a give more with an Anytime Fitness logo. And man, that's a lot of pressure, like to realize that people are going to go out and, drink the Kool-Aid, right? It's just, I can't do it justice. How do you guys build that? Your corporate office, I understand. They work with you. Again, that goes back to they got to be around you, the Libbies of the world and Stacy's, Anderson, and all the people there. But how do you get that to, 50 countries and franchisees that, to their employees?
Chuck and I talk about this often, but this is where you need to know how to connect the dots. And there's a path we travel. It's 36 inches. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but it's the longest 36 inches we'll ever travel in our lives. And it's between our head and our heart, right? And what Chuck and I have always done well is understand how to make that travel. It's literally 18 inches from your head to your heart, but traveling, you got to go both ways. You need to make it bilingual, and they got to be able to speak together, and you have to know how to reach people through their head or their heart. Now, what you don't know is half of America is head first, meaning everything that travels in there, the way they consume information. In fact, Chuck is this way. He's a very head first person. It's going to hit his head first, and he's going to process it. Where he will cause failure in his own world is when he starts to overthink things, and he never allows it to connect the dots. Me, I'm opposite. I cry before
paralysis, kind of paralysis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Analysis by paralysis will happen for people. Me, I'm opposite. I literally, it hits my heart first. And if I get emotional about something or sensitive about something, it won't travel to where I need it to. So what we have done a good job is helping people connect their heart and their mind. And we speak in bilingual ways to be able to make sure that we're hitting both sides of those incoming information and help them process the whole. Because what that 36-inch creates is wisdom. And when you create wisdom in people's souls, what they deliver from that point will be massive. And that's what we've been able to attribute our success in, is always helping people make that 36-inch travel.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you do it so well. And like I said, you can go to, a franchisee, thousands of franchisees, but you can go to one of their employees and they, I feel like I'm talking to a Dave Mortensen or a Chuck Runyon. I mean, it's just the passion they have. How is franchising different from being an entrepreneur? I explained, listen, I believe entrepreneur is one of the toughest jobs in the world.
Yep.
And if you need certainty, don't be an entrepreneur. But franchisees take it to a completely different level, which you went from obviously being an entrepreneur of both a consulting company and a gym.
Yep.
To, what today is, the number one fitness franchise in the world.
Well, the biggest difference is you have to be able to make sure that people coming into franchising is different than being a sole operator and entrepreneur. You are giving up certain freedoms as an entrepreneur in a franchise system. And what you're giving up are some of the things that you are really giving up your own ego. Because as an entrepreneur, when you start a business, everything is on you. Every decision is on you. Every mistake is on you, right? Your brand is your brand. Your people are your people. When you start in a franchise system, many of those things are in place, and you are relying on a franchisor who's willing to consume the full value of that ecosystem to develop a brand and properties and technologies and all the systems and solution that are going to be the betterment for the product itself. And that always won't align with who you are. There are going to be times.
I'm assuming, Dave, tell me if I'm right. An entrepreneur, probably by nature, is a control freak.
Well, an entrepreneur, I will say they have control freak likenesses, and many entrepreneurs never get out of that.
Well, that's what I mean. Now you go to franchising, a franchise model, and you are giving up a lot of control, which is opposite of probably what made the entrepreneur successful he's licking stamps, stuffing envelopes to, doing the big stuff. And I had to learn the hard way. Listen, I could pay someone $15 an hour to lick stamps and stuff envelopes, which frees me up to bring in more money to the company. But that was hard at first. But now, when you go into the franchise model, you're taking it to a completely different, level.
And I would say anything you get to bring to scale needs kind of, Chuck and I always talk about certain properties you need. And properties you need to bring something to scale are really simple. Number one, you have to have a stakeholder mindset. Every stakeholder are part of the business. I don't care if they're your customer. I don't care if they're your franchisee, your employee, if it is a vendor. Every one of them have a position in your business, and you have to care about every one of their successes. So when we make decisions, the last thing we do in anything we do when we build our strategy is build a stakeholder map at the end of the strategy. During that time, we will lay out those strategies and go, how do they impact every stakeholder? And listen, you're never going to create a win-win-win-win-win scenario. You can't do that. It'd be impossible. But what you can make sure is that you don't create a losing scenario for any of those stakeholders. Because every so often you might put something out that's beneficial for your customer, but if it doesn't have value to your employees, it doesn't have value to your vendors, it doesn't have value to the business or the financial metrics of your business, guess what? Then you're creating more problems for yourself. So you have to create a stakeholder mindset first. If you do that right, then the next thing is you've got to be the reason it works. You have to, buy whatever you're going to put out there, you have to be the example of.
I'm sorry, Dave, when you're saying you, who are we talking about? We still talk about the franchisor or the franchisee?
Starts with you as the founder of your business.
Yep.
And it has to resonate throughout your whole business, right? If you're not willing to walk the walk, it's kind of like franchises make big mistakes, like when they go out and they'll tell their franchisees to do a bunch of things, but they're not making their own corporate stores do them. Then you're not being the reason.
Yeah.
We lead with reason. We will start with our corporate stores and make sure whatever we are doing, we are willing to invest in it first, test it, pilot it, and make sure it's successful
Proof of
before we put it
concept
out. Absolutely.
and
Still,
irrefutable evidence. I worked
yep.
with probably the largest franchise in the world, and they were trying to roll out, they called the experience of the future.
Yeah.
It was kiosks and trying to get people to order, and not go up to the counter. It was a really good concept, and they were chasing the Chick-fil-A model because they had gone out with that. So I had gone to their headquarters in Chicago and went to their corporate-owned store that's in the building, in their headquarters, at the bottom, and they weren't doing it there.
Yeah.
Like, how can you tell, the rest of, your franchisees that this is where they have to go and invest? Because, it's a significant investment when you want to, go into that direction. And yet they weren't doing it. They couldn't figure it out themselves. So, yeah,
Yeah, when you're building all of your answers from the top down, and then you're not even willing to bet on it yourself,
right.
you've created some massive problems. Well, the right
Yeah.
way to do it is actually build it from the bottom up. In other words, what I mean by that is work within your systems, because the real gold in our system is you got to be curious, you have to be humble, and you have to go out and listen to a lot of noise. 80% of what you hear out in the network is noisy, right? Because everyone only has this much vantage point of the business. They only see what's in front of them. But guess what? If you're willing to work through the 80% of noise, there's 20% of value there. And inside that 20% of value is gold. And if you look for gold, you'll be able to build some pretty incredible things. But even when you build it, after you gain that information, then you have to test it, pilot it, make sure it's executable before you put it back out in the field to go run with. And sometimes we skip those steps, and we've done that ourselves. Hey, we didn't come up with this. We made a lot of mistakes along the way that taught us a different way to do it. So we're evolving every day too. You got to have a learning mindset always. The day you stop learning is the day you need to retire.
And obviously the benefits, maybe it's not obvious, to franchisor, franchisee model is you're basically providing entrepreneurs that become franchisees a turnkey model, that they don't have to go out and reinvent the model, and with a brand recognition versus John's Gym that no one knows of. I'm, again, reinventing the model, stepping on all the landmines that you've already stepped on. Is that safe to say that's one of the biggest benefits?
It's one of the biggest benefits. It could also be one of the biggest failures, because what ends up happening if you build a franchise system and you have franchisees that are now executing and delivering a little bit different model as you've created and you built, there's no way to iterate that model to make it great. So one of the things is making sure you create consistency within that product, right or wrong, and making sure that you have testable information coming back at you so you can improve it year over year over year. Where mistakes happen in franchise systems is sometimes franchise systems will allow franchisees, not because the franchisee has great ideas, they'll go let them run wild. But the problem is, if you have 5 different flavors of your business out there, you don't know what the trueness of that business will be to go to scale.
Yeah.
There's a lot to learn as you build a franchise system or any business as you want to scale it past 1, 2, 3 units.
Yeah. All right. So let's transition here. You and Chuck sold, I know you're still on the board of Purpose Brands, but you
Yep.
sold. You're in transition. You've written a new book.
Yep.
Franchise your franchise. Love that. Tell us about what that means. What does franchise mean?
Well, let me first
Go ahead.
kick back one thing.
Yeah.
One thing he said, we didn't actually sell. What we did do is we doubled down. And what I say we doubled down is we actually partnered with another great brand called Orange Theory Fitness. We brought those brands together along with all of our other brands, Wax in the City, Basecamp Fitness, the Bar Method, and everything, and put it under one portfolio. Now, why I say we didn't sell, there was no money exchange. This was an interchange to bring 2 businesses together. So we actually doubled down on what we believe will be the future of franchising in the fitness and wellness space. And we believe in the power of multiple. And if you can bring two great brands together, which we did, and incorporate the best of those businesses together, you become more powerful, more stronger, more valuable to your franchise and ecosystem. And then it gave us the time to level up our roles as board members and as evangelists for the brands itself. We're still actively involved in the properties and strategies of the business, but then it also gave us the ability to do some of the things that we love to do, like share the stories of building a franchise. And what is a franchise? I'll answer that. A franchise is real simple. And Chuck does it best answering this because he's a lot of people are music aficionados, love music. In fact, you can almost create what's called a fandom, if you've ever heard a fandom in the music industry or whatever passion. It could be, you could be passionate about cars. You could be passionate about music. What we believe, if this is going to be one of the busiest things you do every day in your life is be a part of your business, why not make it rather than just a franchise, why not make it a franchise? And whatever business you're in, why not make it something that you are that passionate about, that you wake up on a Sunday looking forward to going to work on a Monday, right? And that is what we wanted to create, is that kind of compassion for the business that you are in. And we look for people that are like-minded that want to be a part of that kind of industry. It's when you really look at, everyone talks about ROI in their business. You've heard me say this before. Everyone talks about return on investment. You know, how much do I have to invest versus I'm going to get a return? But no one talks about the return on emotional investment. We call it ROEI. And if I'm going to if I'm going to buy myself an 80-hour a week job, why am I not going to buy something that I want to be a part of, that I love to do, that I believe in, and that I want to deliver? And that's what we look for. And when you look to create that type of excitement in your business, and it's really, John, this is all about really evolving and betting on your relationships and betting on the people of your business. A lot of people spend a lot more time on their product, which happens naturally for all of us. We love our product. We want it to be the best in class. But if you don't have the best in class people delivering it, that product is mud in the water.
And so with that, real quick, what you just said, how important is it that what are you looking for when, and this doesn't have to be necessarily a franchisee or a Libby, Jessica Schneider, great people you've had working with you for a long time. A person that loves your mission, totally buys in, but lacks today the skill and experience, or wicked smart people. But maybe they're not drinking.
I know exactly what you're saying. They're either, in fact, wicked smart people that are in your business that don't align with your culture, we call them cancer in your business. They're the most dangerous people in your business. Highly talented people that don't have the passion for what they're doing are very dangerous for the business. But I'll tell you how to solve that. You first got to figure out who are you as an organization, and who are you as a business? What are your human traits that you are looking for in people? So an example for us, we have 5 traits that we look for in people, and I can tell you when we failed on people, normally it's because they lacked most of these traits. Some of the traits we're highly competitive. So for Chuck and I, there are 5. I'll give them to you. We're highly competitive, right? We want to win. And we want to win. We want to be with a winning mindset team. So having a highly competitive, gritty team was really important for us. Our leaders and our people also have to have self-awareness. Self-awareness.
Is that number 2?
That's number 2. Number 2 for us is you have to have self-awareness, and you've got to be able to know who you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, because the only way to create a learning mindset with people is they have to be self-aware of their strengths and their weaknesses. So we look for people that are very, very self-aware. So that is something for us that is very important. Passion. You talk about passion. You've got to be able to feel them and not just hear them. If you can feel people and feel their passion, they're more likely going to be bought in, because I'd rather have someone that has low talent, high culture, and passion, because I can develop those people and create something that we want. They have to be selfless. In the franchise business and in our business, they have to be others first, not me first. type of people. It's just our business. Now, other businesses are going to have different traits. And the last one for Chuck and I that were really important for us, they have to have a sense of humor. Listen, at the end of the day, Chuck and I believe in a gut belly laugh. We believe in having fun. And if, in a world where things are so chaotic and serious, if you don't have a sense of humor about things, you're probably in the wrong business working with us. And when we find those people, all those other things will work itself out.
Yeah.
So if they have enough talent, but they have those 5 traits, I'm telling you, they're going to be rock stars in our business.
Yeah, I love it. I like to say hire for the heart, train for the part.
Yes.
I think anything can be taught. Me and you are examples of that.
Absolutely.
But passion and things. So let me repeat the 5 traits. What do you call us? 5 traits too?
5 traits of the human traits that you look for in someone being a part of your team.
Okay. Highly competitive. Number 2, self-aware. Number 3, passionate. Number 4, selfless. And number 5, sense of humor.
You got it.
Love it. Love it. In your book, Franchise Your Franchise, you talk about the 3 golden rules for partnership. Can you share a little bit about that?
I can. 3 golden rules for us are really, really simple. Number 1, in our partnership, we have to check our egos at the door. Chuck and I always talk about checking our egos at the door and making sure that it is about what we are doing more than what we think. So, examples of talking about our egos, I would talk about, no matter what idea, we don't care whose idea it is. We care about how we execute it. And I'll tell you, that is probably the most important thing in the world. Is we're egoless when it comes to great ideas. In fact, rarely is it our idea. What we want to do is capture the greatest ideas. And even if I'm against an idea, and I'll give you an example on this, John, let's say you and I are working together and you have an idea and I have an idea, and we decide to go to your idea. My job isn't just to support you. My job is to execute and deliver, because 90% of a great idea is how you execute it, not necessarily the idea itself. There's very rare where there's a bad idea in a business. It's how you execute it is where you failed. And Chuck and I have never in our 35 plus years in business together, have never spent one day looking at each other and said, I told you so. What we have done is sat down and said, what are the things we did to not execute that very, very well, right? Communication in our business is really important. So think about no egos.
So it was number 1, no egos, or leave ego at the door.
Leave your ego at the door. Yeah.
Number 2 is communication.
Number 2 is communication.
Okay.
I really believe, and this is in franchising in general and partnerships, we've got to be able to partner in a why. Right? Not just tell people what to do, but explain why we are doing it. Because when you have a high level of communication, we call it communication alignment and trust, the rest of this business comes very easy. But you have to have that relational side of the business very valuable. And it has to be something that is succinct within you. You've got to be able to trust one another. So if you're not communicating and aligning yourself on a daily basis, Chuck and I did it by a coffee chat every morning. We literally would sit down every morning and we could be talking about business for 5 minutes, personal for 5 minutes, but having a strong relationship and a strong communication line is really, really important in the business. Right. So now we've checked our egos at the door. We have a strong communication where we're working collectively together. And then, third in our relationship that has worked really well for us, and we believe it'll work well with everyone else, is we have all in hands. Our hands are all in, right? We are all in together on everything that we do together. And we really want people to have that same mindset. So we have a driver's mindset. We just want to work collectively together to move the business forward. So that community of practice and that collaboration, for us, we are in one. We are as one. That's why Chuck and I never defined who was going to be this guy and who was going to be this guy. We actually do everything together, meaning that I needed to know everything he was working on. He needed to know. We didn't separate what we were doing. We may have worked on different things, but I could walk away from that today. And in true partnership, he could step in and take over tomorrow. Vice versa, I could do the same thing for him. And how we were able to do that over the years is being able to make sure we kept our egos at the door, making sure that we had a great relationship, and making sure that we were all hands in on everything that we were.
I love it. I love it. Couple more questions. I could talk to you all day, and I'm sure you figured this out a long time ago, but the decade plus that you were my client, you were the client of the DiJulius Group, I learned way more than I taught you. So I probably owe you some money, but hopefully it's
That's not true.
This is a big one. And I visited a little bit in my last book, but not to the degree that you do, leading during a crisis. And again, this is not just for entrepreneurs, franchisors, franchisee. If you're a leader, if you're a parent, right, you are going to have, and unfortunately, we don't have a lack of examples, right? From the Great Recession to a pandemic, to your personal. It doesn't have to be a world thing. Your company could be going through something or you could be going through something. And these are all crises, and they're critical, because what I think of and what I try when I want to go into that fetal position and woe is me, I think of, in my world, there's 150 employees that gave up other opportunities elsewhere and bought my promise, my vision. And I can't bail on them now just because it got hard, and I knew that when I got in this, I wanted to be the guy, the person, not when it was the economy's booming and the busy bus pulled up out front and it's, great. It's January in the gym, or it's, the holidays in the salons, right? Those are good times. It's when shit hits the fan. I wanted to be the person that stepped up, figured it out. And that's what as hard as that, that's why I always had to remind myself during those times this is why I went into this. So yeah, what your leadership during a crisis.
Well, I tell you, in any business, in any world, we have anywhere from mini to massive crises. And everyone likes to talk about the major crisis when COVID happened, and I will touch on that. But I'll tell you, over the years, I think we were trained to challenge ourselves in crisis. I'll tell you, I told you about the Great Recession in '08. That was just one of many. Try a tsunami in a market that we were growing in. At the time in Louisiana, it was our largest growing area. When that tsunami came in, I can't tell you, we thought the whole brand was going to...
Katrina, correct?
Katrina. Yeah, it was Katrina at the time. And I'll tell you, on the contrary, because of some of the things that we do every time in crisis, make a big difference. In COVID, I always tell people this story. In 2019, Chuck and I were on a boat in Antarctica celebrating. In December of 2019, we were literally celebrating being on the seventh continent, being the only franchise system to be on all 7 continents. And we were pretty proud of ourselves, knowing that we were going to go into our best quarter ever in 2020. Literally, the stage was already set, meaning we were going to have more stores open, more revenue coming in, more success within the business than we'd ever seen. And by March of 2020, we closed every store in all 7 continents. And when you start to think of that impact point and how that impacts your ecosystem, you find out who you are as a human. And for Chuck and I, it was really simple. It was, we have this 4-letter word that actually matters, and it's a word called care. One, you have to care. You have to really give a damn about everybody else first. And we just did. And so did our team. So when we ran into that situation, we cared. We doubled down on our CAT, which is our communication and alignment and trust. And we talked about that. And that sounds like small, but there's a thing in CAT we don't talk about a lot. And that's a trait called listening, and really hearing people out and understanding where their challenges are. Because in a crisis, the thing you need to do is get rid of the noise, and you got to filter everything out and help people focus on what is most important at that moment in time.
Control the narrative and be in the certainty business?
It is so, and you know what? I'll tell you, John, it's different for people. You could have an organizational focus, which we'll share, but when you get down to the individual, sometimes you got to look at some people and say, hey, listen, don't worry about the club today. Go take care of grandma. It might be her last breath she's taking. And you sometimes have to tell people that's okay. Your business will be there tomorrow, because when people are focusing on the wrong thing for themselves at that moment in time, the executable of what they're doing is failing. And during that time, we were able to help people really make sure that they were, and that's in our own internal team, in the operations of our business. And you start to narrow down, get rid of the noise, get rid of whatever it is. This is that 80-20 rule again. Okay. 80% of what you're normally doing, that shouldn't even make it. Take that 20% you're focusing on and then really prioritize that 20%. The other 80% is gone at this point, because in a crisis, you need to double down on that and then rally together. And it's a community. And when you get your community of practice working together and everyone working on the same thing, it's amazing what you can create. Listen, in 2020, we're one of the only franchise systems that grew. In 2020, with all of our businesses shut down, we still opened more stores than we closed, while other brands completely dissolved and never reopened again. We actually grew during that period of time. But it's because we were able to share with people, this is a moment in time. Don't panic, right? Here's the things you need to really be focusing on. And as we start to come out of this, know that we're behind you and we're going to support you and we're going to be there for you. Let's do this together. And
I love it. I mean, you weaponized adversity. You weaponized, and I always say this is, I don't prefer, I never want to say I prefer, but, I think there's golden opportunity in adversity when everyone's sharing, not just personal adversity, but even in a recession. I say, that's when we're going to really, differentiate ourselves. And none of my businesses I've started do better in a recession. Some do, right? That's not it. But I know our competitors will do so much worse. They're just not, they didn't create the franchise. They didn't create the loyalty. They're not in a position to handle, even a turkey can fly in a tornado. When that tornado stops flying, turkeys start dropping. That's good for the good businesses, because there's a lot of poor brands in every industry that are giving us all a bad reputation, because you go there and you're like, oh, this is a ripoff. Why would I ever trust any brand in this industry? So we have it. I love that. I share with my team, and I want my leaders to share with them. One of them definitely came from you. The first one, I think I got this from the owners of Nemacolin and 84 Lumber, same owners. They say, I'll be disappointed to their employees. I'll be disappointed if you're ever going through tough times and don't let us know. Not because we're nosy, but we want to help you, be there for you, whatever that may look like. The second thing I want articulated to my employees, and I believe I got this from you and Chuck, is I'll be disappointed if you ever miss a important family event. And I love that. I mean, nothing is more important than that. And nothing goes further than your employees knowing that. And I got that from you. I got a lot of other stuff I don't give you credit for, but I love those. I love the leadership. I think that's so important. I think we need to be prepared, because it's coming. It may come next week. It may come in 6 months. I think we need to prepare. And like anything, I think we need to be, a lot of the stuff I have found to personally get through as a leader, a crisis, is really stuff we should be always doing, right? It's the healthy eating. It's who you surround yourself with. It's not doom scrolling and saying, oh my God, everyone's going out of business. We're going to go out of business. It's not getting sucked into those things. It's all that. Something else I want to ask you that you brought up is, you hear two different people out there, experts say. One is advice to college graduates: find your passion and follow it. Mm-hmm. And then other people say, no, that's a bunch of BS. Find what you're really good at, and you'll become passionate. Where do you fall on that?
It's funny. This is back to one way or the other, and there's no right answer.
Probably it's both, yeah.
And it really is both. You have to have a passion, and you need to know you have the capability, right? I may have a passion for basketball, John, but I'll never be an NBA player. For an example,
I want to play shortstop for the Cleveland Guardians.
Exactly. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
But there is a balance between the two. You're never going to have, it's never going to be probably the thing you're most passionate about. It's never going to be the thing you're most talented about. But when you find that 36-inch travel again, and find the balance between your talent and your passion, you just found your career. And
Dave, were you more passionate back in the day about being an entrepreneur or the fitness center.
Yeah.
Fitness industry. You opened up with you love the fitness. Was that the first thing and then everything else kind of fell into place after? Is that how yours went?
So for me, I was passionate about the fitness. And I would say this is where Chuck and I were absolutely different. Chuck was passionate about the business. I was passionate about fitness. But then as I got into the fitness industry, I found out I was really talented at some things in the business. In fact, here's a funny story. The one thing I wanted to be in the fitness industry is the only thing I've never done. So there you go. I thought I was going to be a trainer. I thought I was going to be a trainer, and that was going to be my career in fitness when I got into this industry. But then I found out I was really good at this thing called business and leadership and sales and all the operational things to do this business. And as I found my passion, I started to get passionate about the businesses and the skills that I had within it. And that's what made me be where I am today.
That's so funny. So when I was in college on my 7th year of the 4-year degree, I just became obsessed with, I wanted to own my own business. Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that was going to be. And the only 2 + 2, probably like you, the only 2 + 2 was I love sports and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So this is in the 80s. I'm like, I'm going to open a sporting goods store. That was the only way I could find. I wasn't going to be an athlete, wasn't going to, all that. So that's what I thought I was going to do. And then met my wife and, was not interested in she was in the salons, but I opened it with her for her, thinking that it took off. I could then go open my sporting goods store.
Yeah.
But my first thing was I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then when I started dabbling with her and, kind of like you and Chuck, she had the artistic end, unbelievable hairdresser, blah, blah, blah. I had the business customer service. And all of a sudden, the pendulum was in the middle, which in most industries, it's all either technical or all, and that's what took off. So I don't know. So I don't even know the answer. This is probably a therapy session I'm trying to figure out. But yeah, I had the passion, not necessarily for an industry, but then I love the industry, and that. All right, last question. Well, what are you focusing on today? You have a best-selling book that just came out. Where can people get that, and where can they find out more about what you're doing today? So first, what are you focusing on today, maybe with the book and helping other businesses?
Well, it's funny, helping other business create their own franchise within what they do. I mean, that is really what we want to help businesses do. One of the things I'm very passionate about, John, is the relationships that I've been able to develop over the years have created who I am today. No different than the relationship that I had when we met you, and you helped us evolve our customer revolution, right? You literally did. Our revolution became into our please standards, which are the customer service standards that we deliver today and act on and have created as an action word in our business to please every customer and every person that we touch, right? So those...
Dave, I got to say, if you didn't meet me and I didn't help you, you probably would only have 6,999 locations. That 7,000, that last one really got you over. No, go on. I'm sorry.
But those relationships, many relationships that have been created, you're one of 50 to 100 that we've created over the years.
Yeah.
If we can help others just a little bit more and help them get to their next one, their next two, their next evolution of who they want to be, we want to help them create something that we've been so lucky to be able to be a part of for, 35 years in business. And I've got one of the most incredible business partners, right? I'm happily married. I've got great kids, and I've got a business that is thriving. If I can help people find that within themselves, that's a passion for me, because I love to see other people succeed in life, not just in business, but in life. And we believe we can do that with some of the properties that we've created.
Where do our listeners learn more about your book and how to engage with you?
Well, it's real simple. It's the 4P guys. So 4P and guys, GUYS.com.
The number 4.
Number 4.
pguys.com.
Yep.
Yeah.
You go to 4P
and that will be in the show notes.
Yep.
And that's where they can get the book, Franchise Your Franchise, and learn more about how to engage with you.
Yep. Anyone that wants to engage with us, anyone wants us to help them, reach out. One thing we say in life and in leadership, create availability for people to find you, and it'll make it a lot easier to be able to make an impact. So we're
Dave,
available.
does someone have to be in the franchise world to engage you? Because I mean, obviously, you could teach corporate world, you could teach
Right.
anyone. Are you just looking at that market, or if someone was listening from KeyBank or whatever and wants to create the culture that you guys have created, could they explore you?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone that
Good.
wants to develop a culture, especially anyone that's wants to develop a culture that is scalable and that they can scale within their system, is something that we can be a part of.
I have had the pleasure of not only working with you and your organization for over a decade. You and Chuck have spoken at our conferences, highest rated. This is the third or fourth time I've had one of you on my podcast. I truly mean this, Dave. I've learned more than I could ever have shared with you guys. And the person you are, I truly mean that. If we never did business again, I would stay in contact. You are a genuine person with a huge heart, and none of this is a shock to me of your incredible success. Thank you so much.
John, you are a one of a kind yourself, and I'm just honored to know you. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Revolutionaries. We'll be right back after this.
Becoming the brand customers can't live without is a team effort. Want to get everyone on board and bought into becoming a world-class brand? Consider bringing John in live or virtually for a keynote or workshop. Email Claudia at thedijuliusgroup.com for more information.